Now, let's talk about the Corrupted. Ironically, in the middle of me making this, the New World team had tweeted out some trivia surrounding the world of Aeternum. One of these mentioned how the Corrupted do in fact eat and drink just like we do. But let's talk about some other things that are interesting about them. I discovered through several quests and lore pages that they have a knack for trying to gather ancient artifacts. Not the ones that scared them away like the stones, but ones that I think the ancients used for technology purposes. You see, the Corrupted aren't just consisted of warriors and maybe religious fanatics of an unknown god. No, they actually have men and women of science. They have cooks and architects, blacksmiths, gatherers, and even alchemists. All kinds of different people from different walks of life. It's as if they're now trying to evolve and adapt, just like we do. And there just so happens to be a key person playing a big part there. But let's talk about a few other things first. The way you can become a Corrupted is very similar to how you could potentially get infected by the Blight. Even though we're capable and the settlers themselves of resurrecting upon death on this island, if you die to a Corrupted or go near corruption itself, very different story. Pretty quickly you're going to find yourself feeling not so good Mr. Stark, and then you're going to become one of them. Sometimes they don't even have to take you out right there. I've seen documents of Corrupted pinning people down, binding them and carrying them off into the north, and days later, they would come back to meet their fellow rangers as something completely different. Aside from Shattered Mountain, the Corrupted do seem to be building their own constructs, or working on them more or less. These are known as the Corrupted Monolith. I'm sure you've already seen them in game or seen pictures of them, and not a lot is known about them so far. But although they do have similarities to the obelisk of the ancients, these ones straight up float in the air. And the question is why, but also what purpose they serve. In the plans of the Corrupted pages, when we have to go into the Corrupted fortresses, we see journals created by the Corrupted themselves, in their own language. We can't translate it so we don't get a full breakdown, but we do get images or mention of images from what we can decipher. One shows an image of the Corrupted banner that shows all over Aeternum wherever they are. Keep this symbol in mind, by the way. Another shows a smelter and some liquid being poured into a crucible, as if they're creating something, and even skulls and bones being pounded into dust. You've also got miners digging into the depths with the priest leading the ritual, trees being cut and dragged away for some unknown purpose, a crystal or gemstone of some kind that's sparkling on an altar, which sounds strangely familiar to the gem inside Isabella's amulet. And you've even got mention of them sketching dryad bodies with circles around their heads, hearts, and hands, topping it off with the very large blade that's supposedly being drawn through the page, and text surrounding it that appears to our character something of desperation. And it's these pages that really made me wonder, just what the hell are these Corrupted up to? But then I started to learn more about the ancients and their ties to Greek mythology, alongside a bit more of what Isabella is capable of. You see, in a previous interview, Scott Lane had mentioned that this MMO would have elements of time shifting, while also being mystical. It's because of that reason that I think just about anything could be possible here. But one thing's for sure, I don't think the Corrupted would be worshipping anything, let alone have a religion, if there wasn't some god or bigger, badder dog behind it. You see, these Corrupted aren't just poofing up from anywhere. In the Path to Mirkgard Arena questline, it even talks about how they discovered the source of the Corrupted, how they seem to be coming out of these unmarked Corrupted portals and the monolith. Alongside that, Captain Thorpe, the man who we initially traveled with, is also inside Mirkgard, but I think he has a lesser role than the woman we'll be talking about soon. Now with portals, usually there's an entrance and an exit, right? Well, we've seen them come to our side, it's what's on the other side that has me super curious. In the invasions that you can do for territory when the Corrupted come for you, a lot of you might not have even made it past the first few stages, but when you do, you actually get something called a Void Destroyer that pops up on the scene. Something that's so massive for only just being ahead really makes me wonder if there's more where it came from. This is the only mob in the game we've seen so far that has Void in its name. But ironically, we do actually have weapon enchants, specifically the Abyssal, that gives us elemental void damage. We also have armor perks for void defense, but the question is, will that be exclusively for just us and the Corrupted? I'm thinking no. Also, mobs in this game do have weaknesses and strengths to certain elements. It's never really explained in the game, but people that played before the preview already knew, and also if you did some testing in-game, you figured it out pretty quickly. And guess what's strong versus void damage? Yup, the Corrupted. So here's my ultimate thinking. I feel like the Corrupted have a home base and a big dog that guides their every move. It's mentioned in one specific lore page how the Corrupted seem to move and operate like one unit, like a hive mind. And if the corrupted have a puppet master, I bet the ancients had one of sorts too. Only question is the ancient one still alive? And which god could that be? Because I think for the corrupted, we may be dealing with the version or the man himself.
I am Hades.
Hades, or an evil version of Poseidon. So let's dial back to the symbol the corrupted use. Now the first thing I did when I remembered the look of this symbol, and I started getting all these hints of Greek mythology being embedded in the lore, I went and looked at the Hades symbol. And granted, there were multiple different ones that came up for him, but here's one of the first ones that were labeled under his. Now this could be a far fetch, but there's got to be some god or demigod that's leading this force. I used to think it was Isabella, but after reading some of her backstory and what she's been doing, she sounds way more like a second or third in command, rather than commander-in-chief. Also, I have reason to believe that either in New World there could be different dimensions or different planets that the game actually encompasses. Remember when I said the ancients were known for being astronomers? One of the quests that caught my eye was Center of the Stars, and also Constellation Convergence and a few others, but I'll focus just on Center for now. The Center quest wants us to retrieve something from the Shattered Obelisk that might explain why the ancients built this tower, and why the Center, aka Shattered Obelisk, is so crucial. The end of the quest dialogue has the quest giver confused. He doesn't understand why the sphere shows 9 orbs orbiting a mass in the center. He doesn't think the Earth has this many bodies rotating around it, and he doesn't think the ancients are as brilliant as he thought. This is where I had to remember that this game takes place in the 1700s. I tried to put my mindset in the shoes of a guy who would be a researcher during this time period, or an alternate version of it at least. And I thought, yeah, I might think the same thing, but I don't think the ancients really didn't know what they were doing. And it just so happens in real life, the sun does have 8 to 9 planets orbiting it if you count Pluto, and the sun is also referenced in that same quest. Now just think about this. After whatever happened here, the ancients completely disappeared, just gone. Nothing left except their guardians and a war-torn island for the claiming. We know from Hazel's diary that the Shattered Mountain wasn't always shattered. My theory is that the ancients were experimenting on it, or gathering from it, and everything was going peachy until... not anymore. So what would be the first thing we would do as humans if a global catastrophe was coming our way? Let's say a tsunami that would cover the world. Well, we would build a boat, or submarine. I think they 86 the hell out of there because they knew they effed up, and they somehow created the ancient guardians dedicated to defending their secrets, either so no one could know why, or could not replicate it. And they might have found a way to go to their deity's homeworld, or another version of Aeternum in general, or they left the island, which another lore page said that they were actually trying to do. Plus Hazel was saying at the end of her life that she could leave if she wanted to, so the ancients simply dying or leaving is also another possibility. But the last thing I want to talk about for the corrupted is Isabella. In Windsward there's a tale called Turbulent Waters. This crew and its captain come across a lady that's very interested in recruiting them and guaranteeing them safe passage north. At first she's directly attacked by them, but according to one of the crew, she fights with the strength of 3 men and quickly makes work of them. She says that she's looking for strong crews and captains to join her. Didn't really say what for, but something is definitely off about her. Remember when I talked about how someone was recruiting blacksmiths, people of science, alchemists, builders, etc.? Yep, that's her, and whatever dark master she serves according to this lore page. Now alongside this, I was reading multiple scenarios where the lost were actually being controlled by the corrupted. And I say lost as in the withered, because there are some differences between them and the undead pirates, but we'll talk about that another time too. See, normally the corrupted would stay away from the withered, but there was an account of them interacting with them for ancient relics for some unknown purpose. And this previous scenario wasn't the only time Isabella showed up in the story either. The story of the bridge. I've told this story before, but I didn't have the full information because I was only ever able to find the last page when I played the game. And the last page had to do with while the settlers were trying to fight the corrupted, the ancient guardians swooped in and completely massacred the corrupted. But right before this, there's a journal entry known as Grey Sister. Coming from Preto, the engineer, I still watch from afar, a single spyglass to pierce the storm. And when I raise the spyglass to see what lies upon the bridge, I see their commander staring back at me, her eyes like 2 burning coals in the hollow of her face. And we know exactly who that is. But just above this, it also says, we saw our own brothers and sisters from Queensport. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the final piece of the puzzle. That ancient capital that was mentioned in Hazel's journal, I believe that is in fact Queensport. and also that it is an undiscovered location that we haven't explored in game yet. Keep an eye out for that one because I'm hoping that'll end up being the biggest zone yet. And if I'm right, we might get a lot more backstory about the ancients and what really happened on that mountain. But in conclusion, so far everything we've talked about and that I've seen, how the corrupted are evolving and learning new tactics, working in unison towards a common goal as opposed to just mindlessly flailing around, making technological advancements and recruiting people with skill and building these unknown monuments, I feel like with how much danger is actually imposed on the corrupted between us, the angry earth, and especially the ancient guardians going to town on them when they can, my guess is they're preparing for someone or something to enter this world that will really turn the tide, something that's probably related to the void. Or they could be trying to strengthen themselves so they can take it over by force. It's already been said that the veil is getting weaker, and when it gets to its lowest point, if these corrupted somehow pierce it like with that unknown sword, or release something, the old world is screwed. I'm very interested to learn more. I hope you guys enjoyed learning a little bit about the lore and listening to my theory. If you got some of your own, please leave it in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, have a wonderful night or day, and farewell.